Nothing could be finer than living in Carolina.
Learn more. Save money. This is the Carolina Real Estate Podcast.
Interviews with experts in building, designing, selling, and financing Carolina homes.
Learn more. Save money. This is the Carolina Real Estate Podcast.
Neighborhood and home tours. Experts who know the area.
Learn more. Save money on your next real estate transaction. This is the Carolina Real Estate Podcast.
Now, your host, Bill Maschio.
We have a great edition of Carolina Real Estate Podcast, and we've got two wonderful people here. We've got the multi-talented Sarah Rose, who's a writer for My Pleasant magazine and interior designer. And we have Christy Whitlock with very deep roots in the area of Georgetown and Pawleys Island. And she's a realtor, and she can add developer to her name. It's all about the George. For those who don't know, the George Hotel on Front Street, Georgetown, just opened, and it's a marvelous golden nugget for the Carolina coast. So we're going to talk about it in a minute, but let's talk about how it all evolved. So in the latest issue of My Pleasant magazine, we've published, Christy, this article on the George Hotel, and I know that you said some very positive things. I know you liked it. I want to talk about how it evolved. I noticed when I was reading it, God, there's so many things that go into it, and there's so many facets to get it where it's living at right now. I wanted to know, what was the hardest item when you had this vision and you knew you really wanted to do it and it started to evolve? What's the hardest thing that you had to overcome or you had to do to make it happen?
Good question, Bill. And you can also add, I'm a pharmacist, so I sell drugs too.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Sell drugs and houses, but not drug houses. So that's kind of that's my tagline. I would say, honestly, the hardest thing, the easy part was the dream, the vision, the idea, and assembling the team. I was just fortunate. It was very serendipitous the way things developed on that side of things. But during we had $4.5 million in the bank. We had to raise $9 million in equity, and a little thing called COVID descended on us midway through. So we're at 4.5 in. Our banker at the time said, we're going to have to re-underwrite because nobody knew where the world was going, what was on the other side.
True.
And now when you look at it, you can go, oh, wow, well, hospitality just had a boom. Like it just blew up in the United States because people weren't traveling abroad. They were traveling in locally once things opened up, but not knowing the future. And a lot of hospitality workers and owners were thinking that their careers were over. So that a
lot of industries, right, Christy? A lot of, like you said early on, we didn't know what was going on.
Nobody knew the other side. So we had, nobody was writing checks for hospitality investments, and especially greenfields where you're tearing down a building, building a new building. Our underwriting went from underwriting to we're not going to honor the note anymore. And so we had to go find a new lender. Everybody's hospitality bucket, as they call it, was full. So that was absolutely the scariest time where it felt like we couldn't get over that hurdle. But here we are. We're sitting in this beautiful lobby and things worked out. And I keep saying over and over again, there were so many hurdles and they felt like setbacks, but it was God's way of setting us up. And we did not know it at the time. So we're just, that divine intervention. And here we are.
There you go.
Enjoying our coffee in this beautiful lobby.
I feel in a way you blessed Georgetown because you've added something to the Front Street that's marvelous. I have to ask you though, too, when you had this in your mind and you got the vision, did you think that the Georgetown Times building was a place you wanted it, or did you already know that and you were looking for an idea?
The Georgetown Times building, I'll tell you when we knew it was right. Mr. J. Keenan came down from Charleston. He owns French Quarter, Harborview, and The Spectator. And so we were fortunate enough to get his attention, even though in the beginning he said, who wants to spend a night in Georgetown, South Carolina? And so I know.
I can see, Christy, I can see a lot of people saying that.
it was a mystery, to him. So and then I sent him the numbers, the feasibility study, and he said, I'm interested. I'll come down and take a look. So we started looking for property. We came to this property where we are now. The Georgetown Times building, was built in in like 1980.
Getting choked up about
I do actually get choked up about a lot of this. So anyway, we came to this building, and he says, well, I want to go look in the roof. I'm like, how do we get to the roof? So he asked the guy, and the guy says, yeah, there's a ladder. So we go on this rickety, rusty ladder. I did not wear a skirt, Bill. I wore pants that day, thankfully. And took my high heels off. We all went on this rickety, rusted out ladder on the side of the wall, crawled to the top.
How many were there?
It was, I think, Joe, Jay, Ben, myself, and the guy from the Georgetown Times. So probably 5 or 6 of us.
Wow,
so
that's cool.
You'll just go pop through a little hatch and then go over another one and then go up another ladder. I wasn't prepared for it, but we made it work.
That's an adventure.
And we got up to the rooftop, and I was standing there beside Mr. Keenan, and he looks at me and he says, I think we found our spot. Let's get to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Something a minute ago, you were so you said, this is not just, it's good for Georgetown in general. The reason I felt so strongly that this would be a success, and the reason I know it's going to be and continues to be now, is one reason. And it's because this property is the first development in the tax increment finance. The city invested with us. The tax increment finance means the city doesn't share the improvement tax with the school board or the county. They have to reinvest into their own city, bringing things that everybody needs here, not just people on Front Street, not just people in Maryville, not people on the other side. Every part of this little city benefits. Every resident that lives here is benefiting from every stay, every beignet they sell, every cinnamon roll for breakfast, brunch. Is all the city, is every resident in the city. So
is this a new program for the city, or they had it for a while but nobody?
They brought it on when we came to them and asked them to invest with us.
That's great. Some of the funds involved, any from the state, or it's all local came in?
It's all the city. The city created, so the city adopted a TIF map, just like Charleston did, just like Greenville did.
Just like Mount Pleasant has.
Mount Pleasant did. And that is a way to grow your city for the residents of the city, because the city controls, the city council, they decide where that money will be spent. So they're voting, the city council is voted in by the people that live here. And it's a great representation of every person in this city. So for me, when I got real clear about what was the motivation for this project, it wasn't, the first thing that came to mind wasn't, I'm going to make a lot of money, or our, developers are going to make a lot of money. It was, this is great for the city, but it's also great for the investors. The investors are putting their money into a city and watching it grow and seeing the transformation. And it's in a good, healthy way. Like you said, this is a crown jewel.
Golden nugget. Christy, it's wonderful in business when you can combine doing the good things for people and at the same time making a profit. And every time I publish a magazine, there's a sense of that too, because when somebody reads my article about something they may be struggling with, or if somebody reads the article and they want to come visit, it will generate revenue. I feel I'm helping people all different ways. So, well, that was a good insight, Christy. So, I love the design of the George. Jeannie was with you, right? She did this. Keenan?
Jenny Keenan. So again, fortuitous, serendipitous, whatever the word is, meeting and finding Joe Keenan and his wife, Jenny Keenan, and Ben Ziegler, the first person that I called to bring on board. Bill, I could never have imagined how beautiful this place could be without the interior design piece and Joe's meticulous oversight, every little detail that went into this hotel. He is passionate about it, still is. I mean, we both walk in every day going, well, this, we need to pick up this or do that.
Was that a surprise to you, this well-known, deep roots in Charleston. Speaking of your deep roots in Pawleys Island, he has very deep roots in the Charleston area. Were you surprised how passionate he was? Because he's got lots of things going on. Did it surprise you a little bit?
It still does every time I'm with him. I'm like,
That's
how many
awesome.
questions can one human ask in a sitting? Like, he is very inquisitive. And Ben Ziegler, taking on that Florence. I mean, Hotel Florence, what they did in that city, they took that strip and a historic district where it was an old warehouse. And they turned an old dilapidated warehouse into the most beautiful place, a beautiful hotel with a great restaurant, which is kind of everybody's Cheers bar. And then, there's new restaurants and new boutiques and new opportunities and people used to be scared to go down Evans Street. Nobody would turn right on Evans Street. Nobody.
You're talking about in Florence.
In Florence, yeah.
In Sarah's article, she speaks of all the different elements that are local there. Did y'all have that vision from the start and it was the same thing it was at the end? Or did some of those things, were they added to it as you went because you thought it was a good idea? Or was there a master plan and you stuck to the master plan?
So many iterations. I'm not kidding you.
Okay.
There were so many iterations of this design, starting with it was going to be 84 rooms and ended up being 56 rooms. Post-COVID, people wanted outdoor space, not indoor space. Gymnasiums in the hotels became a thing of the past. Nobody wanted to go in a tiny gymnasium with people right beside you. Yeah. So we wanted to encourage people to use the natural resources that are available here. There's so many great little walking.
COVID had influenced partial design of the George.
Massive influence.
Wow. That's interesting. There's so much about the local environment there and stuff, When you were there, did you feel like you were wrapped in history, sort of, kind of?
For sure. And especially when Christy gave me a guided tour, she's just pointing out all the details. I mean, the sweetgrass baskets, and then there are framed elements of local color, indigenous crops that are the indigo and the rice and the cotton. So it really does pull in elements of history. And as I quoted Christy in the article, there's just so much history to pull in with the modernity of the space. It's absolutely stunning.
I know that you've had the opportunity to travel throughout the world, really. So you've seen a lot of different hotels in different countries, and so you got a great bird's eye view. And when you go through the Rolodex in your mind of different places that you've stayed at, how do you rank the George, so to speak? And I know she's sitting right next to you, and I know she's the developer, but she's got her ears like, no, seriously, we want to know, good or bad or indifferent. We want to know. What do you think of it?
I love it. And whenever I travel, I always look for boutique hotels because I'd rather that sort of localized experience and immerse myself, like you said, in history and getting to know the people, and not something that's so overblown and commercialized. And so, yes, if I was going to travel, this would be the place that I would absolutely select. Because
awesome.
of that, just the cultural aspects of the design, as well as the food. I mean, if you want to get into talking about the restaurant,
I do. That's a great segue. I do want to talk about the restaurant. So how did Indigo Row, how did that come into play with the hotel? Christy, can you let us know? Christy, can you let us know?
Yeah, we knew we wanted a restaurant, from the get-go. And as things progressed, and we had like an idea or a concept of what we wanted, mostly base it on a lot of local seafood and that sort of thing, just because of the location. We're sitting on where the Winyah Bay is 5 rivers come together, and the ocean inlet is just across the Winyah Bay. And so, of course, you think naturally you're going to have local seafood. So one of our local restaurant or local seafooder called the Independent Seafood, which is where everybody gets their seafood. They're right down like a couple blocks from where the hotel is located. They decided to close their doors after 80 years of service to this community. And we were kicking around all these different names for the restaurant and concepts, and Joe Keenan called one day and he said, I've got it. And he said, let's call it the Independent. And so I was able to call the family member who owned it, who are now living at Bishop Gadsden in James Island in an assisted living center. And I told her that we decided to name it in honor of her family. And y'all, she cried. She wept.
Right.
I saw her at Bistro 217 and she just started weeping. And I was like, oh my God. It was like a very beautiful moment. And again, incorporating history and the city itself and the residents who've spent so much of their time and passion and love for this city.
That is a legacy.
Yeah.
It is a legacy for sure. Everybody involved in this had one major thing in common. They had tremendous passion for what they did. And that's one of the things that's made the George Hotel what it is that collective passion breathes through the walls when you walk in the place, I'm sure.
It does. When you walk through the door, you can pick up on that energy, and it feels like a family. And everybody's got their role to play, and everybody's got their talent and brings something to the table, and it oozes that when you walk in. It's just beautiful.
Well, Christy, I got to tell you, that lady sitting next door to you, that's sitting next to you right there, she wants to move there to Georgetown. She loves Georgetown.
I'm a real estate agent, so anybody who comes there, I want them to move here. You're my girl.
So did you, to let everybody know, when Sarah did the article, she brought her daughter with her. That's part of the article, Sophie. So what'd Sophie think of it? What, through her eyes, how did she feel about it?
She loved the experience. I mean, she's really well traveled too. She's got a dual citizenship. She's half English, half American. She's been all over the world. And we traveled all the time before COVID, and then COVID came and we just kind of stopped. And we haven't really had the opportunity to get back into it with work and other obligations, going internationally. So believe it or not, this is our first time to have an overnight mother-daughter trip.
Oh,
and
really? That's awesome.
Long time. I don't know if I ever told you that.
And you did it at the George Hotel. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it was really special for both of us. And she really enjoyed it. She was so mad. She wanted to take the day off of school today and come with me.
So, Christy, I remember in a brief conversation, we have many of them, that you were telling me that you've already booked a lot of weddings there.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of meetings can people have there? What kind of events? And tell us about the weddings.
We have a 1,400 square foot indoor event space on the riverside, so on the Sanford River. And it flows out to a covered area that is it just invites that indoor outdoor entertainment, and it flows out to a green space, just grass, and then the Eliza Bar, which is beside there.
We're headed there next.
Yeah, it might be too early, but we'll just try. So there's this indoor outdoor space on the water, nice breeze coming in, the most beautiful sunset, and so it lends itself for either corporate meetings, corporate gatherings, so people can come stay here, up to 56 rooms, of course. So it's going to limit some corporations that size, but we like that intimate feel, the smaller experience. And weddings, a lot of people are booking their rehearsal dinners there, their receptions there. You can actually get married on the grounds here at the George, and we take care of all the catering.
Or a wedding comes there, it's turnkey. Everything can be done right there. Is
Absolutely.
that right?
Absolutely. A lot of people do get married at Kaminsky House, which is on the waterfront. A lot of people do receptions at where the Burns buildings were. There's a concrete pad there. We love that we're offering something different. And, we've had from shut down the whole restaurant and the event space and every room block for a wedding, to just someone who's like doing room blocks or just having a reception or that sort of thing at the hotel or in the restaurant or in the event space. So,
and I used to get things printed there because they had a printing press there that had a lot of ink, obviously. And and this is a lot better use of that property. I appreciate, Christy, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Is there anything else that I maybe not have covered about the property that you have so much passion for, you'd like to let people know?
Someone asked me this recently, what is your favorite aspect of this whole property and what is my favorite thing? I do love the outside bar, and we have cornhole out there, and anybody can come. You can come by boat, just for the day, just hang out, get some brunch, go out there, get some lunch out there. But the balconies in the rooms that I've had, the mayor and the county administrator and several other people that went to room 323 and 324, and they look out over that balcony and say, I've lived in Georgetown my whole life. I've never seen the view like this. And to be able to see Punya Bay from this angle, the way that we're situated, is just gorgeous.
It's almost like a little European village. It's
And the other thing, what Jenny did that I love so much, I think we both share this love of, there's whimsical art in here. There's an alligator with a mermaid and smoking a cigar. And then right down there, there's like an Eliza Pinckney, one of our, famous, women of the history of this area that brought indigo. I mean, you have a portrait of her. So it's like the juxtaposition of bringing the old and the new and winding all of that together to bring a current experiential thing to people that you can't get at just a regular, place to lay your head. It's more than that.
It's eclectic.
All the things you just mentioned goes back to what Sarah said. It's a boutique hotel. And with the boutique hotel, usually there's such a in-depth presence of local, wherever that may be. And this one we're talking about, obviously, is on Front Street. But again, Christy, I've been wanting to do this. How many times have I talked to you about this?
A million, since the first time I met you. And that was such a great meeting. I will say this last comment. The Georgetownians have embraced us with open arms, and they have supported our restaurant. They have supported us. They even do staycations. People just come here for their anniversary. They spend the night. They have a nice
I can see that.
And they're exploring Georgetown in a way they never have. People are driving from Myrtle Beach to spend the night. And I was just down in Charleston and for 2 nights a couple of days ago with my children who live down there. And I paid twice as much to stay there with really, in some cases, not even as nice of a stay. And this is so available. And there's so many things from Brook Green Gardens, Hobcall Barony, Atalaya Castle. I mean, there's so many different things you can do from this little landing pad here to and McClellanville even.
People that come from up north down here sometimes halfway jokingly and halfway serious. Oh, these Yankees coming down. There was a time period that because the North came down here, look at Brook Green Gardens, look at Huntington, that all over the state. Look at in Munch Corner, there's the Mepkin Abbey, which was developed or owned by Henry Luce, who was the publisher of Time Magazine and Life Magazine. So the northeastern people, the people from up north, they really brought gifts here that stay today and help make our coastal area what it is today. We're looking forward to publishing that in an upcoming issue of My Pleasant Magazine.
Coming up next, this was the playground of the rich and famous. These people traveled all over the world, and Georgetown was their go-to place to come and stay.
And you think they would have stayed at the George Hotel if they were coming?
They'd have a staycation.
Yes.
Sarah, thanks for driving down here and being with Christy. And Christy, thanks for your time today, okay?
Of course. Thank you, Bill, as always.
You've been listening to or watching the Carolina Real Estate Podcast with Bill Maschio. Want to know more?